we have for you today is something extra special. I'm driving a car that's been driven for a long journey. Yes, this is the famous Laal Pari that made it from Ahmedabad all the way to the UK.
To understand the real challenge, one must take into account the distance, roughly 13,000 kilometers. And then there's the 75-year-old car. So just how difficult must this have been? Now, driving this is something of a privilege. But I soon understand why the average speed was only around 50 kilometers an hour.
Now it's only got a 1200cc engine and it makes only 50 horsepower, and that for a four-seater is a bit low, even in the 50s. So this car was given quite short gearing, which made it difficult to cruise at higher speeds, especially with more load in it. And that must have been pretty difficult.
Something else to factor in is the gearbox and the brakes.
Of course, the drum brakes and the gearbox take some getting used to, but it's not too different from driving an old Ambassador, where you had to really get to know where the gear was and get used to the braking distances and the amount of bite the drum brakes had at that point of time.
Added to the dismal brakes, very poor grip in the wet, poor visibility in the rain, and this car has no windows. Still, when I get behind the wheel, I sort of understand why one would like to take this on a long drive.
So even so many years down, this car is extremely charming. The view over the bonnet is absolutely gorgeous. You can see the fenders, the side lights, the chrome headlights, and along with this chrome windscreen, it gives you a great perspective of the road ahead. It makes any journey a special one. And the whole feel you get sitting here looking at the road ahead, wow, that journey across the world must have been something else. Now the other incredible bit is Laal Pari was taken care of by the people who drove it and owned it. It helps that these components are simple, basic, hardy, and easy to fix.
Laal Pari has been in owner Daman's family since he was a kid. Always present for birthdays, weddings and other celebrations, it's part of the family. Daman not only took his wife along, he also took his dad and his daughter. Many of the family members playing a supporting role in the Tata Winger that followed Laal Pari around.
Started in Dubai, went to Bandar Abbas, and then by road all the way to Calais, France. It was the first time, so we tried to estimate the worst. So we had, we carried a half axle, we carried pump, fuel pump, we carried alternator, we carried a distributor, we carried, lots of seals, bearings, brake pads, windshield, even a spare roof. We broke a glass, we changed the fuel pumps, we changed the clutch plate, we even changed an axle in Croatia, and we did quite a bit of work on the engine in Switzerland and France. So, first off, Dubai, we were there for 3 days. It was 42, 43 degrees ambient temperature, more than 50 degrees ground temperature, and we were driving at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Iran was pretty much the same, almost 14 days of 40 degrees plus. And if anyone who knows vintage or classic cars, the fuel pump gives up, you don't get enough fuel, the car starts behaving badly, you get a lot of carbon in the plugs. So fuel in Iran is 7 rupees a liter. Okay. And that did have challenges for the car to drive through. It's a big challenge to get fuel in Iran because you have to have a card to do that. But the people were very nice and friendly, and they used to give us fuel free of cost at the petrol pumps to get us through to the next destination. People of Iran were incredibly welcoming. Here we say Atithi Devo Bhava. They actually showed us that when we were there. They were very welcoming. So we expected initially that the people-to-people interaction or something of that might be a challenge, but it was completely opposite. Actually, the roads at both the sides between Iran and Turkey were beautiful. Even in Iran, the roads were very nice. Obviously, the kind of people you talk to changed a little bit. you were easier to communicate with them. It was a little more scenic and green on the Turkey side. And when you're passing through from Iran to Turkey, for some extent you could feel the little bit of tension between the place. Actually, driving, because it's a right hand drive, so you're practically driving on the wrong side for most part of the whole journey. And the fun part was that you could, because you are going so slow, you could see all the people waving and honking and wishing you the best of luck while they were passing by. The average speed, we were not looking to go fast. We wanted to slow down, and not because we wanted to, because the car would only go at 30 or 40 miles maximum. So that was our maximum speed, and we would just enjoy the scenery a lot more because of that. The toughest challenge we faced was to keep consistently covering 250, 300 kilometers a day. A typical travel day was, we would get up at 6:30 in the morning, get the car ready, start by about 8:30, drive till about 4 o'clock, and hope that we would have achieved 200, 250 kilometers max in that day. Do a little bit of sightseeing of that place, and then move on to the next. So of the 73 days which we traveled, there were hardly 4 or 5 cities where we spent more than a day. Otherwise, it was that same routine every day at a new place, at a new house or a new hotel, in new surrounding and a new country. Well, just to give you an idea, we did not have bookings anywhere because we did not know when we will reach where. So around 12 o'clock, we would decide, we would look at, what's the available accommodation, either an apartment or a small hotel. Since we were on a tight budget, we had to be very careful where we stayed. But because we stayed in small places, we could spend time with the locals. We could see an amazing part of the country, which normally people don't get a chance. Europe, suddenly from these large expanse that you have from Iran and even to a very large extent Turkey, you get into Europe and you see the spaces closing. It's greener, it's more beautiful, but the roads become smaller. So instead of the 3-lane or the 4-lane highways, you get into a 2-lane or a single-lane highway. We had decided that we, instead of the traditional Poland, Hungary route, which most of the people take, we wanted to go to the lesser visited, the Balkans. So Albania, Macedonia, Croatia, Slovenia, and through the mountain regions and through the Gotthard Pass and through the amazing scenery, with sea on one side and the road and the mountains. It was absolutely breathtaking. So you have to understand that it's a 1200 cc, 50 horsepower, 1-ton car. So it was extremely underpowered, and especially in Turkey, in Istanbul and in Croatia, the cities, they were on mountains. So while the highways were fine, it's the cities where you stay, they had very steep climbs, and there were times where we had to actually get the passengers off the car so that we would just at least climb and get to the destination. Because it was such a heavy car for such a small engine, getting up the mountains or the very high steep terrains was obviously a big challenge. I had to, in fact, offload passengers from the car just so that we could climb the top of the hills where we needed to clear it. Before we got to Croatia, the toughest challenge was obviously the fuel, getting to the engine because of the heat and everything. Because we traveled through Turkey and Croatia and there were very steep mountains, at 8 o'clock one night, while climbing on that mountain, the half axle broke. It sheared in 2 pieces. We took the car to a garage. Unfortunately, it was a Sunday and there was no one to repair it. So with the help of my uncle over a phone, I replaced the half axle all by myself, and that was the first time I had ever really actually worked on Laal Pari. So till the axle broke, we had originally planned that we'll go through Austria and do all the passes of Austria. That was one of my dreams. And then the axle broke, and that was the only axle that I was carrying. So we said, let's take the easier route. Let's go through Italy. So till we got to Croatia and we changed the axle, and it was a smooth drive, and we were very happy and enjoying. Europe was a very easy drive because the temperature was beautiful, 22 degrees. The roads were silky smooth. It was very beautiful. The fuel was good, and we were cruising and having the time of our lives, enjoying the scenery all around. And lo and behold, when we get to Switzerland, the engine conked off. So the one of the valves got stuck. The guide broke, and of all the places in the world, Switzerland is obviously the most expensive place to get any work done. And while we were adding some fuel additive, because we were doing continuous 200, 250 kilometers at a constant high RPM, the wear and tear started in the head and the valves. So we got the engine work done, we replaced the head gasket, we changed the valve guides, and it cost us almost as much as the engine. So when we, once we get this engine work done, and we feel, oh, this is beautiful and very nice weather and all of that, and suddenly the weather changes. So Switzerland, France, and ultimately UK, we were at 8-10 degrees. It rained for all 25 days on single lane roads in the middle of the night, because it was getting darker by 3:34, 5 o'clock in the evening. The actual driving part of it was the toughest, because for a large part of the journey, the wipers were not working. And I was stickler I wanted the original wiper. So for a very long time, we had to actually use our hands to wipe it. So that probably was the toughest technical driving that I had to do on this whole journey. For 70% of the journey, I was working on 2.5 brakes, because the rear axle seal leaked, and it was leaking oil into the drum brakes. And anyone who has driven would know that if you have oil in the brakes, it just doesn't work. So luckily we got it fixed in Switzerland, and since then we didn't have any problems with the brakes. Just imagine, it's 8 degrees, it's raining outside, it's dark. You don't have wipers, you don't have brakes, you have a very small tail light, and you have cars coming behind you at 70 miles an hour, and you are doing 20 miles. And to top it all off, for some part of the journey, because the engine was not working properly, I was on 3 cylinders. So 27th of October, we took a ferry from Calais to Dover. On 27th of October, we left Calais, and in a couple of hours we could see the white cliffs of Dover, and like an explorer, we could see the land approaching. And finally, when we got off the ferry and on to UK soil, I don't know, maybe 50 years of emotions were flowing through. We were all crying tears of joy. We had achieved something that we had never even dreamt of. I think the most surreal experience was seeing the Eiffel Tower or the Buckingham Palace go by in my Laal Pari, which I've been having with me in my family for the last 40 years. Laal Pari for us is family. It has been with us since I was 3. We grew up in it, went to zoo in it, went to picnics, we had birthday parties. Where I got older and I could drive her, we took it to drive-in. I took my wife for the first time on a drive in Laal Pari. We got married in it. So it has given so much of joy to us all through our lives, that we felt that we owed it to her to take her back to her birthplace. and share that joy that it gives to people all the way around. You would be surprised at the amount of joy that it has given to people all over the world. I had counted once, there were 500 cars which had honked and waved at us, families, men, women, children, grandparents, just out of pure joy that they got seeing Laal Pari traveling on these roads. So yeah, definitely it's part of our family, and it's definitely a very important family member for us.
Wow, what an adventure, what an accomplishment. And if you think Laal Pari is hanging up her boots, well, think again.
Well, it's just 14 of 160 plus countries, so look out for us.
Hope that inspires you to do that long journey you've been planning forever. It's all about making memories, isn't it? And this surely has to be one of the ultimate trips.